Has someone ever told you to take Social Security early because it might not be there in the future and you should just invest it if you don't need it? And has someone else told you the complete opposite, that you should wait as long as possible because the math just works out better? As an expert in this space, this video is meant to myth bust and clarify both of those statements and the full spectrum of decisions in between. Because here's the thing, Social Security timing is one of the most consequential financial decisions that you will make in your entire retirement. Not because it's complicated, but because the decision is permanent. There is no do-over with the Social Security Administration. And yet most people make this decision based off of one of three factors: fear, incomplete math, or whatever their neighbor told them at the barbecue. I spent 12 years as a CFP professional working with people in this exact situation, and I can tell you that Social Security is one of the most misunderstood topics in the entire retirement income space. And it's not because people aren't smart. It's because the conventional wisdom around it is either completely oversimplified or it's missing a few variables that completely changes the answer for you specifically. And nobody knows your full picture. So in this video, I want to walk you through what nobody actually tells you about Social Security timing, not just the break-even math, because everybody does that and that's where most videos end. But what really matters for you and the things that quietly wrecks the calculation for most people who thought they had figured it out. Things like tax implications, spousal strategies, sequence of returns risk, and even a psychological trap that even the most financially sophisticated people might do to leave money on the table. If you're anywhere near retirement and you have not already claimed Social Security, this video is for you. Okay, so quick baseline, just so we're all working from the same foundation here. You can claim Social Security as early as 62. Your full retirement age, or FRA, is 67 if you were born in 1960 or later. And you can delay all the way up to age 70, at which point your benefits stop growing, and there is literally no incentive to wait longer than that. Here's what that range actually means in dollars. If your full retirement age benefit, what I'll call the base benefit, is $2,000 a month, the difference between claiming at 62 and 70 is a 77% difference between claiming those two ages. 77% on a guaranteed government-backed income stream for life. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now, but Jake, I'd be collecting early for years. Doesn't that money add up? And it does, absolutely. That is kind of the whole concept behind a break-even age. If you wait until 70 instead, you're foregoing 8 years of payments while the high earner delays. Now, the break-even, the point where the larger checks surpass the sum of all those smaller checks, lands somewhere between the ages of 79 and 81. So if you live past that time, you generally come out ahead financially than claiming early. And this is where most videos or articles stops. But this is also where you specifically need to keep going. Okay, so here's the good stuff. Here is the stuff that nobody really tells you. The break-even framing is intuitive and easy because it points towards the wrong analysis. The break-even asks, how long do I have to live to get my money back? But that's not actually the goal of Social Security. It is about your longevity insurance. It exists to make sure that you don't run out of income if you live a really long time. The goal is not to maximize what you collect if you die at 79. The goal is to protect your financial situation if you live to 88 or 92 or 96. Most people dramatically underestimate how long they will actually live. The average 65-year-old man today has a 50% chance of living past age 85. And the average woman that's 65 right now has a 50% chance of living past age 87. So let's say you're a straight couple and you're both 65 right now. There is roughly a 50% chance that at least one of you lives past age 90. So when someone says, I'll just take Social Security at 62 because I might not make it to my break-even age, you are making a decision about a 30-year problem using the worst-case scenario as a lens. The better question you should be asking yourself is not, when do I break even? It is, what income do I need to live for a very long time? And almost always that answer points towards a delay in your benefit. This next one surprises a lot of people because Social Security is not fully tax-free. And depending on your combined income, which the IRS calls provisional income, it can mean that up to 85% of your Social Security check is taxable. That is not me misspeaking either. Up to 85 cents of every dollar of Social Security benefit can be counted as ordinary income. And here's where timing matters in a way that most people don't see coming. If you delay Social Security and spend down your pre-tax IRA or your 401k money in the years between retirement and age 70, you might actually owe less in taxes throughout your overall life because you're doing smaller IRA withdrawals at potentially lower tax rates until you bridge the gap until age 70 and the higher payments of Social Security kick in. And if you wait for those to stack on top of each other, they can mean relatively large minimum distributions at age 73. Now, what I'm talking about right now is generally referred to as a bridge strategy, and it's one of the most underutilized plays in retirement income planning. You can use your own retirement savings as the bridge between ages 62 to 70 and let Social Security grow at 8% per year, potentially avoiding, by the way, a scenario where RMDs and Social Security are pushing you into higher cumulative taxes in your 70s and 80s. Now, I'm not saying that this is the right move for everyone. It depends entirely on your tax situation, your portfolio size, your spending needs, and a lot of other variables. But the point is that Social Security does not live in isolation. It lives inside of your broader tax strategy. And anyone who tells you otherwise is giving you an incomplete answer. This next one I find is one of the most least discussed, but extremely important to consider, because if you are a married couple, the Social Security decision is not an individual decision between one of you. It is a household decision. And this is where the most money I see gets left on the table. Let me give you a scenario. Both spouses claim at age 62 because they figure, hey, we'll get money coming in sooner. We can even invest it if we don't need it right away. And that seems reasonable. But here is the problem. When the higher earning spouse dies, the surviving spouse does not keep both checks. They keep only the higher of the two. The lower benefit goes away completely. So if the high earner claimed at 62 and locked in a permanently reduced benefit, and that high earner passes away first, the surviving spouse is now living on a reduced Social Security check for the rest of their life. For a widow who might live into their late 80s or beyond, that is potentially a decade or more of reduced income during the most financially vulnerable years of retirement. The research on this is pretty clear. For married couples, it almost always makes sense for the higher earner to delay as long as possible, ideally to age 70, regardless of what the lower earner decides. Because you are not just maximizing the higher earner's lifetime benefit, you are maximizing the survivor's income floor for life. This is probably the single most important piece of Social Security strategy that I share with my clients. It almost never comes up in casual advice. You are not hearing it from Jim, your neighbor at the barbecue. Now, here's one that's becoming more relevant right now, given that everything going on in the markets and the economy tends to feel more volatile than it has in the past. People claim Social Security early when they're scared. And study after study shows that early claiming spikes during market downturns and periods of economic uncertainty. We think about the 2008 financial crisis, or even more recently in 2025, Social Security early claims were up over 16% compared to the same period in 2024. That is one of the most sharp increases in decades. Sometimes fear and confusion are significant drivers to this, which is why having a financial plan in the first place to help alleviate some of those fears is so important. Take away Social Security for a second. Generally speaking, it is ill-advised to make impactful decisions under duress. And I do get it, I really do. When markets are volatile, you're watching your portfolio drop, pulling a guaranteed government income check feels like a rational hedge. But there is a catch, and that is that claiming Social Security early out of fear of market volatility is solving the wrong problem. If the issue that you're worried about is sequence of returns risk, basically the market going down early in retirement, it is a real risk. The correct tool is a cash reserve or short-term bond buffer, not an irreversible decision for your lifetime benefit. Claiming early because you're scared is a permanent decision that is made in a temporarily emotional state, and those rarely go well together. Okay, so when should you actually claim Social Security? And after all that, here's the honest answer. There is no universal right answer, and I know, very satisfying. But the factors that should move the needle for you are like this. You should delay if you're in good health, if you have other income sources to bridge the gap, if you are married and you're the higher earner, or you're worried about outliving your money. Or maybe your RMD picture at 73 is already going to be complicated and it doesn't really matter if you add income on top. You should consider claiming early if you have a serious health condition that meaningfully shortens your life expectancy. Maybe you have no other income sources and you genuinely can't wait. Or you're in a situation where your spouse has already passed away and the survivor benefit dynamics have completely shifted. What I would push back really hard on is claiming early because you're anxious about Social Security solvency. Yes, the program faces funding pressures. We all know this. Congress has known about this for decades, but the idea that Social Security is going to disappear, that you really need to grab it now before it's gone, I'm sorry, it's just not a serious financial planning assumption that I would use. Even in the most pessimistic projections, current estimates suggest that the fund can pay full benefits until 2033, and after that, benefits could be reduced to about 76 cents on the dollar. That is a meaningful reduction, but it is not in any way an elimination. And it would hit every beneficiary regardless of when they claimed. So if you're claiming early, it doesn't protect you from that. It actually locks in a lower starting number. Now, the best way to make a right decision for you is to model your specific situation. You need to run your actual numbers with your tax situation, your health, your spouse's benefit, and your expected retirement spending all taken into account. And let me say, the real reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place is because usually the advice around Social Security goes into one or two buckets. It's either completely oversimplified to the point of being useless, or it is so technical that there's really no value to you using it in the first place. The truth is, the decision is critically important, but it's also specific to your individual situation. What I hope you take away from this is that break-even calculation is really just a starting point. The taxes, the dynamics, the behavioral traps, and the longevity picture are really where your decision needs to live. If you found this video helpful, the best thing you could do is subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below. I do read every comment, and I'm planning future videos directly based on what you're asking about. And if you want to run through your own Social Security strategy, not just generic advice, but your numbers, your household, and your timeline, feel free to reach out to me directly. The link to schedule is down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.